Indeed, predictive analytics and IoT are increasingly making their way into the fabric of today's most successful organizations. And to learn how you too could be driving your success this way, listen closely to our next two Microsoft experts. They are Partner Group Program Manager for Windows 10 IoT, Brett Benson is here, and Program Manager for Azure IoT, Olivier Bloch. Thanks for being here, gents.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Now, before we jump into our first poll question, I should point out in our last poll question, we offered people $250,000. It's our money, you have it. Spend it on however you want to disrupt the industry. And the majority said IoT. So you're in good company here. We know our audience. We'd like to ask the next question for you right here. And you can weigh in. We'll reveal those results here during the interview. Here you go. If you're looking at an IoT solution, which best describes your plans? A, Windows IoT. B, is it Azure IoT? C, maybe it's a combination of Windows and Azure IoT. D, maybe it's something completely different. Weigh in now. We will reveal those results in just a little bit. But let's start by talking about what does the IoT market look like today?
Yeah, the IoT market is really broad. There's a lot of people who have different definitions of it. I think from Microsoft's point of view, we really think of it as a broad spectrum of both very low-end devices and very high-end devices across both commercial and consumer spaces. So things like light bulbs in your house, all the way to industrial machines in a factory, getting all of those hooked up so that you can get data off them and control them. And so there's both on devices and then access to the cloud, which was where I think Azure really comes in.
Yeah, definitely. When you say IoT, actually, there's this T-like things, and then there's the internet, right? And we want people to actually realize they can go beyond just the pure data of devices and what they produce, but actually that they can take action, implement analytics, advanced analytics, predictive analytics, as we're going to talk about a little, onto that data and really take action, whether directly back on these devices and their environment or somewhere else.
Right. And let's dive into that. Talk about some of the practical applications of this technology.
Yeah, so we talked a bit about this wide range. So on the devices themselves, you can sort of augment what you already have by adding sensors, adding that control and backplane information so that you can know what's going on, say, a factory line, get that information back in, do some edge computing perhaps, but also push that up into the cloud. So there's this whole range of solutions, and I think there's some patterns emerging in the uses of those solutions, and some of those are predictive analysis.
Yeah, totally. And it's definitely about extending, as Brett was mentioning, existing solution by adding sensors, by adding connectivity. Also, it's about creating new scenarios, like totally innovative scenarios. And back to Brett's points as well, we can now go beyond just like monitoring what's going on. And we definitely want to take action, optimize the processes, optimize the use, optimize lots of things. Like think about a digital sign. Now we can have a camera on it that will actually analyze the glance, optimize the ad that is displayed on that digital sign based on who's in front of it. So basically really make the most out of that display that used to be just like paper and now is something that is actually interactive with its environment. Wow,
that's impressive stuff. So talk to the folks maybe who are not as familiar, and we've talked a little bit about it in the summit so far, but let's go back and talk about predictive analytics and people who maybe aren't familiar. What does that even mean?
Yeah, so the basics is trying to understand the aspects of a system, predict when that system may have a failure that you need to address, and then be able to address it beforehand. So a lot of it's around optimizing the sensors around the device, so that you're gathering all that data. But then a lot of it is pumping that data to the cloud, being able to reason across that with machine learning.
Yeah, totally. And a typical scenario you can think of is a robot arm on the factory floor. This robot arm has tons of sensors that generate lots of data. And that data cannot be analyzed on site because you don't have the processing power and the storage to do all of that. And so if you want to detect that a specific part of that robot arm is going to fail next week or the week after, potentially, statistically speaking, then you can actually preempt that machine at a downtime on the factory floor versus stopping everything once it's failed.
Sure.
So it's really about predictive. You're going to predict that something's going to happen based on all the data you can analyze, based on statistical data as well that you input into your system, not just your actual one. And so then you can actually feed these algorithms that are going to learn and evolve and basically become better and better.
Let's go back to our poll question. We have the results in. We've got enough votes that have been cast. We want to go back and find out what you all think. Here's that question. Of course, you remember that by now. Poll question, if you're looking at an IoT solution, which best describes your plans? We wanted to know, maybe it was Windows IoT, maybe it was Azure IoT, maybe it was a combo of Windows and Azure, maybe it's none of the above.
Nice.
50%.
Interesting.
Combination,
Yeah.
the combo. It's also the most popular pizza in America. What's your reaction to that?
That's great. It's actually a little bit higher than I expected.
Yeah, me too, but
it's a
good surprise,
It's a
actually.
good surprise.
Good surprise.
I think we're both from the Windows point of view and the Azure point of view, still learning in this space and adapting. You know, if I talk a bit about from the Windows perspective, where we are and where we've been, Microsoft has been in the embedded devices space for almost 25 years, and IoT is kind of an outgrowth of that. Windows has offerings from, you know, high-end PC-like devices, so, you know, the cash machine you use, a lot of the retail point of sale. A lot of those are really PCs that are really purpose-built for that particular use, for, you know, dispensing cash, for doing retail point of sale. So we have an offering in that space that's really based on Windows, like the desktop PC you use today. We have an offering in the mobile space, so we have Windows mobile offerings. So think of the FedEx or UPS driver. When they give you the package, they do a scanner with a handheld system. A lot of those can be built on Windows systems. We have an offering there. In addition, our newest offering is Windows IoT Core. So it's really the core of the Windows system, but targeted for small purpose-built devices. So Raspberry Pi is one example in the maker space, where it's an inexpensive device. You can run Windows IoT Core on there, use the power of the Windows Universal Platform to write your applications and logic on there, and then connect any of those systems up to Azure IoT so that you can gather across that data and do the sort of analytics that you might want to do.
Yeah, great. And actually, I love to see that result for the poll, because we work very closely with the Windows group to make sure we have a comprehensive solution and a good integration. And at the same time, we also want to make sure that the customers understand that if they have something that's an existing not running Windows, or they have a different choice on devices, Azure IoT still is a great choice for them. And so we very often have that discussion about, hey, what is Azure IoT supported on? And sometimes customers are like, yeah, I assume I need to run Windows there. And we make that point, which is, well, you can, and it's great for these reasons. And definitely, if you don't have any solution, think about it. But you can also consider the fact that we're supporting all these microcontrollers and Linux-based machines, right? And so then we allow these customers to access these rich services. We have this offer called Azure IoT Suite, which is, think of it as a bundle of services that allow you to get started really fast on an end-to-end IoT solution, with accelerators that are actually pre-configured solution, where you have like tons of services all combined together doing something smart, such as remote monitoring or predictive analytics or predictive maintenance. So these are the bundle of services you can leverage. And under the hoods, then you can leverage one-by-one services like Azure IoT Hub, which is a device gateway in the cloud that allows you to securely connect your devices, retrieve data from these devices, and control them back. All of that, as was mentioned, in a very secure way. And we're going to add more functionality on top of that messaging infrastructure, so that we can have structured configuration of devices, advanced device management, and all of these things. So Azure IoT is really about the cloud toolbox for IoT solution that allows you to get these data from the devices, control them, and implement these end-to-end solution, linking into the rest of the Azure world. And I would conclude that actually it doesn't stay just in Azure. If you want to actually integrate your end-to-end solution into a line of business application, trigger, creation of tickets and things like that based on a scenario that is happening on your factory floor, you can totally and easily integrate, thanks to the Azure IoT services, into your own existing line of business application.
Wow. Well, Internet of Things, obviously very dynamic, evolving. I'm curious, what's the Microsoft perspective? How does Microsoft view IoT?
So it's a hard question to answer to some extent, because IoT means so many different things to so many different people, and each instance is different and unique. So that's what I think is so great about the Microsoft approach is, like Olivier said, Azure sort of this connective tissue, this ability to connect into anything. And then on the device side, Windows has this great history of security and manageability and reliability. And so that's a great solution on a particular device, or perhaps as a gateway to a bunch of these other devices. So if you have legacy devices that are operating on sort of legacy standards, you could put a Windows gateway in and then have that proxy the data, connect it back up. So a lot of, I think, is Microsoft's approach is flexibility. There's so many different solutions out there that you can't go and say, this is the only way of doing things. You really want that flexibility for customers.
Yeah, I think this is exactly the same perspective we have. Like the first word that came to mind when you asked the question, how do we perceive that? I think the first word that came to mind is opportunity. Let's be clear, that's a huge opportunity. That's a huge market coming up, and we definitely want to be part of that. And our approach definitely is about flexibility, offering the options that the customer need. We realize that there are as many IoT end-to-end solutions as there are IoT customers out there. And so we want to make sure that they can build on top of our platforms with us, their solution. And then eventually, be seduced by the fact that, hey, they don't have a Windows device yet, but they have the Azure IoT, and they realize that they can build a very powerful gateway with Windows. We want to offer the opportunity. When they look at what we have on the service side of things, if they're already having some existing machines or maker boards, whatever, want to make sure that they're able to test our services against them. So providing choices, bunch of SDKs, bunch of documentations, and bunch of flexible services definitely is the idea.
Let's dive in a little deeper on the specific sides of the fence here. Brett, talk to us about Microsoft's Windows IoT offerings.
Yeah, so Windows IoT offerings, touched on it a little bit before, and you can really think of that spectrum of devices. So if you're on the sort of small purpose-built device, you really want to start with an IoT core-based product. You can bring a lot of your knowledge of development on Windows from the Universal Windows platform. We use Universal Windows drivers, so a lot of devices, peripherals that exist today can already run on that platform, and you can really tune that. You can move up if it needs to be more of a portable solution. That Windows Mobile offering for IoT is available. And so that's really where you have a shell built on the Windows shell with the live tiles. You can lock it down so it's only specific applications that someone can get to. So say you wanted a retail salesperson on the floor, maybe they just have a checkout application. A manager on the floor could use the same device, log in, and have ability to do both checkout, but also look at shift schedules. And then all the way up to Windows Enterprise or Windows IoT Enterprise, which is really the PC-based operating system. But again, you can lock it down to be just purpose-built. So if you want a, cash machine, retail point of sale, even some of the self-checkout, those sorts of things, you can reuse all of that base Windows understanding of Windows development, Windows class hardware, but build it specifically for purpose-built devices.
Okay. Olivier, on your side of the fence, talk to us about Microsoft's Azure IoT offering.
So I already touched a little on the Azure IoT Suite, which is this collection of accelerators for you to get started easily on an end-to-end solution for doing predictive maintenance or remote monitoring. A part that I didn't dig into, besides these services that are in the cloud, is actually what we're doing for device developers. And back to the things, and we want to give them that flexibility of connecting anything to Azure. And so we have a bunch of open source SDKs. We really believe strongly that open source is a way for going for this kind of things. And so we have like SDKs for devices ranging from little tiny microcontrollers using C code up to more advanced, or gateway type of devices. And you can use your favorite language, Node, C#, Java, and others, Python as well. And so all of these SDKs are actually fully featured, support all what the services can do. And so you can very safely say, hey, I have that device and I want to connect to Azure. Go shop for which SDK you want as a developer, try it out, play around with that, and we definitely want to go in that direction of offering all these options. And same thing on the service side of things, when you build an application that needs to interact with the Azure IoT services, we also offer these easy SDKs, different languages, once again, all open source for developers to feel at home and at ease to use our services. That's really the second point. I would say, go try it out. Like do a search for Azure IoT and Windows IoT. Play around with them. You'll see the integration is great. You'll see that you can get started building a device with Windows IoT really fast. You can get started building your end-to-end solution with Azure IoT and some board that you can find on the market really fast. One thing that actually can help that as well is starter kits. We have these very easy to understand comprehensive starter kits. Some are Windows-based, other ones are microcontroller-based with very popular chips that are out there. Some are Linux-based as well, so you can try things out for yourself and experience the Microsoft IoT services and platforms.
We are short on time, but I want to bring our audience in on this. A lot of folks watching live. We just got a Twitter question for you. How would you advise an organization to bring in predictive analytics in all aspects and implement in a smart manner?
Yeah, I think it again depends what the sort of device is and what sort of understanding and analytics they already have. Getting the right sensor data to understand what parts of the system they want to understand. Gathering that data and sort of reasoning over it to try to understand where things might happen in the future and pull that together.
Yeah, totally. And if you want to get your hands dirty immediately, Azure IoT Suite comes with a predictive maintenance solution that doesn't obviously fit all the needs and addresses all the scenarios in that area, but gives you a rough idea of what it could look like, and then you can customize from that, right? And so definitely, if you really want to try it out, experience that, well, go online, azureIoT.com, and test it. I mean, that's a good way to go.
Great stuff. Thank you both so much for being here. We appreciate this.
Thank you.
Thank you.